นี้เราจะไปฟังกันนะคะว่าหุ้นในพอร์ตของวอร์เรน บัฟเฟตต์นั้นมีอะไรบ้างนะคะแล้วเขามีการเพิ่มสัดส่วนสำหรับการลงทุนในพอร์ตด้วยหรือไม่ไปติดตามฟังกันต่อค่ะ
Let me ask the case study that I see from the annual later, and I see that the portfolio of Berkshire Hathaway is mainly consists of like financial sectors and consumption sectors, right?
Exactly.
What are they trying to tell us, or what is that supposed to mean?
Well, the financial sector is comprised of banks, of insurance, and American Express, MasterCard, Visa, and they give, this is a service business. These are service businesses, and they continually give, year after year, amazing annual compounding rates of return. Their earnings are great. They have great management. So it's just one of his favorite sectors.
Right. And the latest annual letter also said that he has acquired more of the existing stocks, the big four ones, which is the Wells Fargo, the IBM,
right,
and also the other things as well, like Coca-Cola and American Express.
Right.
So is that because he see the additional value from those stocks, or do you think it's simply just can't find the value from other stocks at the moment?
No, it's because that Wells Fargo is, he knows, and from studying it well, he knows that it's only going to grow in the future. He has no doubt about that. American Express, again, being that service company that people use over and over, is giving him high and great returns on the shareholders, with the shareholders' interest in mind. IBM is an interesting,
very classic one.
yeah, where it used to be considered a technology company, and people say, Warren Buffett doesn't understand technology.
He's not a fan of technology firms, right?
Well, that's generally speaking. Of course, he understands it. He's brilliant. But what he also understands is that a young college student in their garage can come out with a new technology tomorrow and change the world, even though his best friend is Bill Gates.
Yes, from Microsoft.
However, IBM really became more of a service company than a technology company, because their Z-frame, T-frame system is almost universal. Every banking company uses this frame that IBM makes. If you were opening a company in another country, for your IT department, you would absolutely use IBM because it's global, it's worldwide, and it's growing.
So it's some sort of the monopoly.
It absolutely has some characteristics of a monopoly company. And it recently took quite a big hit in value. It was, people were saying, oh, Warren's lost so much money. Knowing him, he'll just give him an opportunity to buy more.
Sure, because he sees the true value of the IBM.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And the very interesting point of the acquisition last year, from the last 15 months, I think, he acquired a lot of daily newspapers. Right. Which is, most of the analysts would say that it's dying business.
Right.
So what is he thinking now?
Well, it's a great point that you make, and it's true. As more big newspapers are online, what Warren bought is the small newspaper, the smaller newspapers. In other words, he would call it a toll bridge company, where
if
you're in a small town,
right,
and for instance you want to follow the high school basketball team, or you want to know local events, there's only generally one newspaper in that town. So if you want to find out what's on sale at the grocery store, you're going to buy that newspaper. So he bought all of the small newspapers in towns, in small towns, which is really, you can't go wrong. Very similar, one of the recent acquisitions was Dollar General. And Dollar General is it's the Costco, it's the big discount stores, but in small town America. So there's probably 10,000 of these small Dollar General discount stores. And I think it was Todd Combs who made that investment as his new chief investment officer.
Right, one of his team.
One of his team.
Right. So basically now he's looking for some kind of the local business who have the unique, durable competitive advantages.
Right.
Is that right?
Or what we call toll bridge companies, because it's like if you have to cross a bridge and there's only one and you want to get from one side of the river to the other, you pay a toll. So the same thing with the small newspapers. If you want your newspaper, it's a toll bridge. So that gives it that economic moat.
Okay, I
that
see.
Margin of safety, lowering the risk.
For example, like if I am the business owner and I want to advertise on the local newspaper.
Exactly.
That would be the channel. And have to pay them.
You have to pay them. There's no other paper.
Right.
Whereas in a big town in New York or Los Angeles, the big towns, the newspaper business is virtually all online.
Right, given the social media, things like that.
You can buy Los Angeles Times, USA Today, many. So now we have all of that online. But for the small towns in America, it was a very smart move.
Right. And he also said that last year was very disappointed in terms of the major acquisition he hasn't made last year.
Right.
But beginning of this year, he happened to announce the huge deal of Heinz.
Right.
So could you please talk about that?
Well, Warren also, I failed to mention, he likes his companies old, and Heinz was right after the Civil War. Heinz came out, and what Warren realized, there was a study done years ago about how many different kinds of mustards there were, and I don't know if you realize it, but there are vast amounts of different styles of mustard, everything.
Right.
But in the ketchup world, there's only two. There's Heinz and there's Hunt's. So he already has a competitive advantage with the brand name, and everyone's going to be using it. It always goes with French fries. It always goes on the hamburger. It complements all of the other stocks that he owns.
So it comes to the original concept, just like monopoly.
Right.
Right. And everyone has to eat the ketchup.
And there's very little competition. There's only one other person who makes it. So you have a 50-50 chance. And with Heinz being so old and having the history behind it, you could look historically at so much data. And nobody's coming out with new ketchup.
Sure. And I noticed something that the investments during the past couple of years would be, the huge one. For example, the amount of money that he made in IBM and also the Heinz as well. So do you think that his investment style has been changed in terms of to put a large amount of money into one or the other companies that you see the future at the premium price?
Right. The Heinz, he did pay a 20% premium on that price, and people were very shocked that he would pay a 20% premium.
Right.
But what they fail to see is what he already knows. He's already projected out that investment will more than return his initial investment. As I said before, the more money that Berkshire has, they always have cash on hand for large acquisitions. So when you're dealing at that level, you really can't, Warren doesn't make a lot of buys during the year. He's not buying and selling and buying.
Right.
He's waiting, he's looking at all of the documentation, the management of the company, and then he'll wait for the buy.
Right. And it seems to me that, there are a lot of questions, but the time is limited. so why people have failed to follow his philosophy, do you think?
It always amazes me because it's really not rocket science. And that's part of why I write books that are trying to be simple and show people how they can get the financial returns that Warren can. The hardest thing is really the discipline and the patience.
Sure.
At one point, when the market was well overpriced, I believe in the 70s, Warren didn't buy anything for 4 years. He just studied and found the companies and waited for the crash.
The sensible price.
And then he stepped in and bought.
And gain the huge amount of capital gain.
Huge amount of gains over the year.
ค่ะคุณผู้ชมคะสำหรับกรณีศึกษานะคะที่น่าสนใจไม่น้อยก็คงจะเป็นเรื่องที่วอร์เรน บัฟเฟตต์เข้าไปซื้อ IBM นะคะหลายคนอาจจะมองว่าเทคโนโลยีนั้นเปลี่ยนแปลงเร็วนะคะอาจจะตามไม่ทันแล้วก็อาจจะเป็นจุดอ่อนของการเลือกลงทุนแต่เหตุผลหนึ่งที่วอร์เรน บัฟเฟตต์เลือกที่จะลงทุนใน IBM ก็คือเป็นธุรกิจที่ให้บริการทางระบบคอมพิวเตอร์มีจุดเด่นคือการให้บริการทั่วโลกและเมื่อใดก็ตามนะคะที่คุณทำธุรกิจและเปิดสาขาทั่วโลกคุณก็จะต้องเลือก IBM ที่มีเครือข่ายเยอะนะคะแล้วก็ให้บริการคอมพิวเตอร์ที่สร้างความเสถียรให้กับการทำงานของคุณทั้งหลายเนี่ยนะคะแล้วก็ในระดับที่บริษัทอื่นไม่มีทางที่จะทำได้ก็เลยทำให้ IBM น่าสนใจในมุมมองของวอร์เรน บัฟเฟตต์นะคะและอีกประเด็นหนึ่งนะคะก็คือการเข้าไปเลือกซื้อหุ้นหนังสือพิมพ์นะคะซึ่งก็ขัดกับภาพรวมอีกนะคะว่าธุรกิจหนังสือพิมพ์นั้นเป็นธุรกิจที่มีแนวโน้มว่าจะเป็นตะวันตกดินนะคะแต่ว่าคุณวอร์เรน บัฟเฟตต์นั้นกับมองแตกต่างออกไปจากที่หลายคนเข้าใจเพราะว่าเขาเลือกซื้อเฉพาะหนังสือพิมพ์ท้องถิ่นเท่านั้นนะคะถ้าจะเปรียบไปเขาก็บอกคล้ายๆด่านเก็บเงินนะคะหรือโทเวเนี่ยนะคะเนื่องจากหนังสือพิมพ์ท้องถิ่นเนี่ยปกติก็จะมีไม่กี่ฉบับแล้วก็จะนำเสนอข่าวที่สื่อระดับชาติไม่มาสนใจเช่นยอดค้าปลีกในรัฐนั้นๆหรือว่าคะแนนของทีมกีฬานะคะแล้วก็ทำให้การซื้อสปอนเซอร์การโฆษณานั้นจะต้องซื้อผ่านหนังสือพิมพ์เหล่านั้นเป็นตัวอย่างของการมองธุรกิจแบบผูกขาดนะคะเป็นมุมมองอีกมุมมองหนึ่งนะคะของทางคุณแมรี่ บัฟเฟตต์นะคะ